What up, Screen Fiends? I'm GB, and you're tuned in to Screenheads TV, where we like to discuss all the wonderful things appearing on your movie and your TV screens. In this episode, I'm gonna basically give it to The Walking Dead. It's gonna be a little rantish, because I was not happy with the finale. I'm gonna do another rant episode, and the overall review, two separate videos on season 7 as a whole. But this video is just going to be about the finale. So even though my review for episode 16 was a negative review, and it was basically a little rantish and complainy as is, I felt the need to do another video because I didn't really get to touch on the points that I wanted to touch on. So without further ado, here we go. The finale as an episode should have been action-packed, wall-to-wall, not much different than a No Sanctuary or Too Far Gone is an even better example of how you can have an action-packed episode where it's pretty much all action in the episode, but still have some slow-down moments for some character, for some story, for some dialogue. For some of your actors to shine and do more than shoot guns, right? So it can be done. This episode didn't do that at all. It was slow the whole episode, and then the last 20 minutes, half hour of it was action. And poorly done action, I might add. Which The Walking Dead normally has amazing action. Or at least good, at worst, good action. I felt like this episode was really bad action. Didn't like it at all. Alright, so we have that. The episode itself was paced wrong. Not only was the pacing of the season off, right? There was ways they could have spiced up what they did with the season, but I'll get to that in a different video. But this episode was off. It was slow, and then exciting at the very end. And it shouldn't have been. There should have been more tension and more action throughout the episode, and you still could have gotten those small little character moments in. Alright? So there you go. There's my first one. Second, man, no matter what anybody tells me that makes this show or that has an opinion about the show, watches the show, about the toned down violence, I'll tell you, you're wrong. Go fuck yourself. Go jump in a lake. You're wrong. Because even if they're not intentionally doing it, which it's obvious that they are, the violence is toned down. Okay? Fat Joey was a perfect incident. Look at the rest of the season other than episode 1, and there are scenes that are noticeably cut because of the gore and the violence. It's noticeable. No matter what you tell me, Scott Gimple, Galen Hurd, or anybody else, Nicotero, anyone else, no matter what they say to the fans, it's noticeable that you're cutting the violence. So just be upfront about it. Now, I don't know if it was already in their game plan, because it might have been. They might have went into season 7 knowing how bad and brutal the premiere was going to be, and said, "Well, we're going to cut down all the gore shit, and just save it for the Blu-ray. We'll shoot it and everything, but we'll just save it for the Blu-ray." So I can totally see that, as the way it happened. But I don't think so. I think it was the pressure that got to them, or AMC as a network, or the advertisers, somebody that got to them and made them cut it. But it's noticeable, so stop lying to us. The Michonne scene, how does this relate to the finale? The Michonne scene. Look, I knew that, I didn't know, but I assumed, I figured, I guessed that it was going to be a woman that Michonne was fighting in the building. We all know from the comics that it's Andrea, not Michonne. But, the role switchel, you guys know the deal with that, I'm sure. And she fights a savior, and it's a man, and it's brutal as shit. I understand why they changed it to a woman. 2 reasons. 1, the way it plays out, they wanted the screen from the fall to think that it was Michonne. I get that. And 2, you're on TV with not a cable network. You don't want to really show male versus female brutality like that. I get it. So you make it a woman. Okay. They picked the least intimidating woman it could have been. I'm not saying it should have been Jadis. She's the most intimidating villain we have. But it could have been a savior chick that comes up there, like Arat or Laura. Those are 2 badass chicks that I believe could really put on ass whooping on somebody tough like Michonne. But it could have been Tamiel if it had to be a junkyard. You know, Tamiel, the right hand, Jadis's right hand, the one that was spying on Alexandria. She looks badass and tough. So, number one, it was a chick that didn't look like she could whoop Michonne's ass. And then number two, cutting all the violence, cutting all the brutality, which makes no sense since you changed the sex. So that it was a woman fighting a woman. But you cut all the violence out, which makes Michonne look like she's not tough. It makes her look like a damsel in distress. It makes her look like the average love interest that you see across network TV and even some cable TV. Okay? It makes her not the badass action hero she has always been in the show and always been in the comics. All season, they've kind of been devolving Michonne into this love interest like they can't do both. Like they can't have her be a super badass and be Rick's love interest. To me, that's ultimate sexism. Not, not having the not male versus female brutality or showing the brutality or whatever, but changing her character to taking her out of the action hero and only a love interest instead of doing both. Makes no sense to me. I don't know why they're doing it, and I hope it changes soon. Because I'm tired of it. Michonne's one of my favorite characters, and like I said, they're devolving her to a love from gangster action hero to pussy damsel in distress lover. And she can be the lover and the badass. Okay, Walking Dead? She can be both. Alright. Finally got that one done. That one was bothering me so much, to tone down violence. Because it was even in all throughout the episode, the war scenes. We saw nothing. Nobody gets shot in the head or nobody even really get killed. The goriest thing we saw was the Shiva attack. And that wasn't even gory. Alright? And we only saw one. She jumps on one guy and sits there and eats the one guy. I guess that's kind of realistic. Because that's what a tiger would do. They killed the prey. Now let's eat. So I get it. But with all the gunfire and everything around, you would think that Shiva would be a little bit more unhinged. And we should have got a scene. I know this was about violence and I segued into Shiva. I like the way she looked and everything. But I feel like we knew Ezekiel and them were going to come, right? So when they came, we should have saw them coming in first and him like petting Shiva, talking to Shiva. Not like that. Like he can control her, but like people do with their pets. And then, and then he takes the chain off. And then we see Negan about to hit Carl and the fucking tiger come out of nowhere or something. It wasn't a surprise. We all knew he was coming. But I get it. All right. Maybe they didn't want to go that route and they wanted to really catch us off guard with the tiger. All right, fine. That's not a huge complaint. So I'll leave that one where it is. But the way Ezekiel and Maggie come in together... Bad writing. B-movie writing. This felt like 100 different action movies that were good, whatever. Fantasy movies, all kinds of movies that are good, but it's been done 1,000 times the way they swoop in to save the day. It should have been done differently, and it should have been done more realistic. And if you spread the action out throughout the episode, like had the action start in the first 20 minutes, half hour of the episode, then halfway through the little fight scene we would be getting between Alexandria, the Savior's junkyard, whatever, then you would have Maggie come in. So I think Maggie would come in to incite the violence, right? We don't know the junkyard is a traitor yet. The bomb doesn't work. As soon as the bomb doesn't work, Maggie comes swooping in. But Savior's fucking grabbed them up. Rick and them go to fight back. The junkyard turns on Rick and them. And then we can start a whole lineup, whatever, after a little short action sequence so that you still have it moving, right? And then Maggie comes in. Negan is pissed off and surprised that Rick lied to him. And now he puts a different lineup. It's Rick, Carl, and Maggie in a lineup. And he tells Rick he's going to kill both of them. Rick says his little speech, right? Later on in the, a little bit further down the episode, Rick says his little speech. He's getting ready to whack Carl over the head, and then in comes fucking Shiva. A whole separate save the day incident of it being Ezekiel, sorry. And then have it shot differently so that it doesn't come across so cheesy and so, I will save the day, good friends, or whatever the fuck he says. It came across as cheesy and and cliche, and it shouldn't have. There was a more natural way to do it, and I feel like splitting the two up would have been that natural way to do it. Okay, that's another complaint out of the way. We're almost done here, I promise. The way the whole turning thing happens between the junkyard, I kind of talked about that a second ago, my last one. Should have went down differently. When they pull out their guns, they should have made everybody else drop their guns. And it seems like the only reason why they didn't is so that everyone could be holding their guns when Carl turns around and shoots that one dude. Like, that was the only reason for it. And that's how it felt. And that's not good writing. Okay? If you're going to have something happen because you need something else to happen later, it should feel organic and natural and not forced. So you should have had the group go to put down their weapons, and Carl, before anyone has a chance to put them down, pops that dude a couple times on his way down with the gun, and then have it all start. And that would have been more natural. And then Maggie and the Hilltoppers are already there. And then, you know, they're in the mix. And then you have this whole shootout thing going on. And then you can have it come to a stop because they're outnumbered. And then the line up. And then, you know, like they did. But then have Ezekiel come in and save the day there. All right. So the way the turning happened, it felt forced. It didn't feel right. It felt rushed. Like, the whole episode felt rushed and thrown together. And like, let's put something out there quick. We need an ending. Like, let's just throw something together. That's how it felt. Like, this wasn't a plan. Like, they had to change their original idea around so that it was less violent. And that's how I feel. That's what I feel happened. But I could be totally wrong, and I probably am. But that's my opinion. Okay. All right, so the treachery I didn't feel worked in the way it was presented. Not the act of the treachery, but the way it was presented. It didn't work. Just like I liked the whole Michonne getting her ass kicked, but the way it was presented to us with that particular person being the one to beat her ass, and the way it was edited, all that stuff cut out, it didn't work. The way the Kingdom and Hilltoppers run in to save the day, it's not the idea that I didn't like, it's the way it was presented didn't work. And that's what I'm saying. Jadis having the gun on Rick, and Rick not attempting to do anything. This is supposed to be back to badass Rick. This is supposed to be back to Rick trying to save the day. The way Rick does nothing when Jadis pulls out the gun, not a struggle, nothing. Nothing at all. Doesn't go for the gun or try and punch or nothing. She just shoots him and shit. That's not the way this Rick, it contradicts everything we've seen from season 7 so far. And what we see Rick do with Negan later, how he fucking tells Negan, you know, screw you, bitch. And it contradicts all that. It's a different Rick for that scene. And the reason for that is lazy writing. It's the only way we could play out that scene is how it felt. Terrible. Almost done here. I swear it. I got like 1 or 2 more. All right. So the actual battle was underwhelming. We don't see anybody die, really. You see Rosita get shot. Nobody else gets killed or anything like that. Maybe a couple saviors. Maybe a Hilltopper or 2. Maybe a Kingdom or 2. I don't know. You don't really see it. So, couldn't tell you. Some junkyard people, I'm sure, die in there. You know what I mean? So, but nobody of any importance. Nobody of any significance. These are people that are marksmen any other time. But then when they get into a war, they can't hit shit. So I didn't like the fighting and the way that was handled. It could have been handled like Too Far Gone. Like the first prison attack, you know, to me was handled better than this, you know? And that was like some short little throwaway shit that most people hated. So it felt like, I'm telling you, I'm going to say this 1,000 times when I talk about this episode. It felt like network TV. It felt like NBC, Fox, ABC, CBS. Pick a network. That's what it felt like. In the action, the presentation, the editing, all of it felt like network TV. And that's not what you want, AMC. The reason why your show was such a big hit is because it's not network TV. It's not that The Walking Dead is great, which it is. It's not that your writing team is great, which it is. It's not just that stuff. It's not just zombies. It's not just your special effects. It's also the fact that you feel like cable. You don't fit into that trope of NBC, ABC, and all that. Maybe I'll do another video about that. But I think that's pretty much it for my complaints, which is pretty much the whole episode I'm complaining about. Didn't mind the Sasha stuff, but the way it was spliced in felt like it was spliced in for time or something to stretch out the episode. When they did that in season 6's finale with the hood over the head, it felt like part of the story. It felt artistic. It felt like it was bringing you into it. This felt like, well, let's just splice these in there. I don't know. It could have been done better. I like most of the stuff that was done with Sasha. Could have been done better. And think about the better results they would have had if they changed all these things, right? Think about all that. If they would have split up the Maggie and Ezekiel coming in, Negan would have had better reactions to Maggie and Shiva. But because they throw them in at the same time and they're back-to-back reactions, and it felt rushed, it felt like they didn't give Jeffrey Dean Morgan time to really do those lines a couple of times to get it right, or practice those lines or something, because they should have came across as better. And if they were split out, they would have been. The episode felt too crammed in, too weird. It didn't feel like The Walking Dead, so I hope these aren't the changes to come. I hope this is not what they plan on doing with the show now, is making it feel more like like network TV in everything they're doing. And I don't know what the solution is. I'll try and think of one, and I'll do a video about what I think the solution is. But I still got high hopes for season 8. I love The Walking Dead. This season was still better than most regular TV, so you got to give it that. Right? But for The Walking Dead, I don't know. This season, I think, is the worst one. And it wouldn't have been the worst one if the ending was gratifying and satisfying and was a great episode and justified all the slow paced, but it didn't. It didn't accomplish any of that. It didn't justify the slow pacing. It didn't gratify me. It didn't make me happy. I don't know. Maybe it did for you. You guys let me know. Sound off down below. I'm really upset and depressed about the episode, but we got to keep on moving on. I'm going to keep doing videos. I'm going to keep staying excited for season 8 because I really think that it was all about, this all happened because of the way that they did season 7, episode 1, and I'm really hoping the Blu-ray plays out a lot better, but that still does not change that this season 6 episode wasn't really that good. Season 7, episode 16 episode. Alright, I'm rambling, and now I'm confusing the shit out of myself. I don't even know what planet I'm on now. Alright, that's it for this episode. Chime in down below. Look out for more Walking Dead videos, because I'm gonna be making them even in the off season. And yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have a good day, and I will see you next time.